Imagine, you have a perfect life, you have a beautiful wife, you have clever children, you have a big house in the suburbs, but all of a sudden, everything is destroyed. Your unwed teenage daughter gets pregnant. How dare she? And your perfect, beautifully constructed life is going to hell. Because now you have a cloud of shame around you. Everyone will be pointing fingers at you. Your neighbors will be mocking you. Your colleagues will be discussing you behind your back. What can you do? You have to hide the shame. You have to hide her. And this is how we meet our main protagonist, Fern. She was shipped away by her parents, by her father, to a house, to a maternity home in Florida in 1970s in the US. Fern was only 15 when she got pregnant, and it brought too much shame on her family. They needed to get rid of her. In 2 decades before Roe versus Wade made abortions legal in the US in 1973, young, unwed and pregnant girls were systematically shamed by the society, by their families, and sent away to maternity homes, where they had to stay till the end of their pregnancies, where they were giving birth and giving their children away for their adoption. They didn't have rights, they didn't have a voice, they were controlled, and they were forced to give away their children for their adoption. And this is the setting for Witchcraft for Wayward Girls. And Fern, our main protagonist, is one of these girls. She was only 15 when she ended up in their maternity home. Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix is a horror book about teenage girls that were shunned by the society. It is a book about abuse of power and an attempt to take this power back. When Fern is left in the maternity house by her father, she is practically abandoned by him there. She has a very interesting and false notion about other girls. She thinks that surely, if these teenage girls are pregnant, they are loose girls. But they are not like her, because only trash girls can get pregnant like that. But she is definitely not one of them. She is not like that. But she is soon to learn the circumstances of their pregnancies are very, very different. And she is not really that different from the rest of the girls. And some of the reasons for their pregnancies are absolutely horrific. In this house, we meet different girls with different stories, but all of them are children. And all of them needed the protection and love and support of their families, and not being sent away to the shame-filled prison, where they don't have rights, they can't control their bodies, they can't control their actions, they're being told everything they need to do. They can't choose what they eat, they can't choose where they go, they can't choose where they need to go to sleep or what they do during the day. It is a prison. And the terrifying part of the story, even though we feel that the condition of the house is absolutely terrible and it feels more like a prison, actually from the history we know that some of these maternity homes were much, much worse, where girls were denied the phone calls, they couldn't go outside, they were controlled 24/7, and they even faced aggression from the local population if they tried to have a walk outside of the house. Fern and her friends that she meets in the house are constantly reminded about their shame that they brought on their families, and that they have to pay for the shame and pain. They are told that they are too mentally unstable to keep their babies, because surely, if you get pregnant as a teenager, something is very wrong with you, and you can't be responsible for your children. The house exists to hide their shame, to keep them away from their society, so no one can learn about what happened to them, and they can go back to their families and friends and pretend that nothing actually happened. But not all of the girls want to give their children away. Some of the girls have different ideas, and some of the girls want to control their destiny. And at some point, Fern and her friends stumble on a witchcraft book brought by a very curious librarian. And the girls start learning magic in the beginning just to alleviate some of their small pains. Like, for instance, Xenia suffers from morning sickness, but everyone is ignoring her, and doctors are telling her that it's all in her head. But at some point, the stakes are growing, and they want to take their power back. But every power has a price. Xenia wants to leave the house and unite with her boyfriend because they're planning to marry and start a family together. Fern wants to forget everything that happened to her and just go back to her family as if nothing ever happened. And Rose wants to keep her baby and live on a farm together. But no one knew what Holly wanted. But when they learned, they were terrified, and she became a unifying factor for this group because they wanted to help her. But when you dabble in magic, when you're trying to take your power back, you have to pay with your blood. And the greater you desire, the greater the price. In this book by Grady Hendrix, we have two important plots. We have interpersonal relationship between Fern and her friends, and the situation in the maternity houses, and all the shame surrounding their pregnancies, and how society treats them. And in parallel, we have a horror plot involving witchcraft. To be honest, I didn't feel that this book was particularly horrific. I think the second plot involving witchcraft could have been explored a little bit deeper. But at the same time, I feel that the plot involving girls' relationship and social commentary on the situation surrounding maternity houses was explored absolutely amazingly. We learn about all the horror that surrounds girls' circumstances, and we really feel for them. We want them to succeed, and I feel that Grady Hendrix was very successful in his social commentary in the book. I feel that the book was full of these raw and very true moments of friendship and suffering and anger, and to be honest, it made me very upset. If you're one of these people whose soul demands justice, probably you'll be very, very upset reading this book. It is not my first book by Grady Hendrix, and I'm always very surprised about the way he manages to craft female characters. I read 4 of his books so far, and all of them had female protagonists. And I'm absolutely amazed by the level of his craft, the way he writes these female protagonists. And I was actually wondering who his consultants are, because the way he writes women is absolutely amazing. Please be mindful that in this book, you'll face cases of injustice, sexual abuse, and scenes of childbirth. If you're sensitive to any of these things, probably it is not a book for you. But I feel that all of it was implemented masterfully. And even though this book made me very upset, sometimes I felt I was enraged. I'm very grateful for this book. I didn't personally have this experience, but I feel that thousands of women will feel heard after reading this book. And even though I personally feel that horror elements of this book could have been stronger, I think this is one of the best Grady Hendrix books, and I would highly recommend it. I really hope you enjoyed this review, and please let me know if you've read this book or if you're planning to read it, and what your thoughts are. See you soon. Bye.